Hey there and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug video. And recently, in the latest episode of Season 4 to drop, Penalteam, we saw the long-awaited debut of the final few Miraculouses, the dog, the ox, the rooster, and the goat, each with an explanation of their specific powers. And a couple of years ago, I made a video titled, All Miraculouses Ranked, which, as you may have guessed from that very descriptive title, ranked all the Miraculouses that we knew about at that time. But of course, since then, things have changed and a bunch of new powers, both epic and trash tier, have been added to the mix. And so today I thought, why not? Let's go through them all again and fix up the rankings a little bit. But first up, we need to define the parameters. So obviously we're going to be judging the weapon and the power of each of the characters and how useful these would be in doing their job as a hero. So basically, how helpful would this hero be in fighting a villain? And this villain can be akumatized or a senti monster or even just an evil miraculous holder. It doesn't really matter much to the exercise, just a generic villain. But we still need to add a couple more parameters to this. One, the hero does have a time limit after they use their power. Yeah, adults apparently don't need to do that, but the majority of the heroes we see are kids. So we'll just keep it with that until we see more aged up heroes and how their powers work. And they're also going to be judged as if they were alone, because if you can't hack it on your own, you aren't a very good hero, are you? I mean, I will take into account the usefulness in a team scenario, but just to a lesser extent. Nobody likes a passenger. Anyway though, with all that being said, let's jump into it. And we have to start with the trash tier. And of the trash Miraculouses, there's one that really stands head and shoulders above the rest. The pig. Oh, the pig. Imagine getting chosen to be a superhero, you get given a mystical jewel, and then it turns out you were given the worst of them all. For starters, the weapon, a tambourine. Ooh, that'll definitely put the fear of God into those villains, won't it? No, please, not the tambourine. Like seriously, what are you gonna do to a villain with that? Play some folk music at them?
Now listen while I play my green tambourine.
And then what's the power? Gift, which conjures the deepest wish of a person's heart. And how often could that possibly be useful? I mean, in a team scenario, it might be useful as a distraction. Make them happy for a little while your teammate sets up a sneak attack. But on your own, I feel like it's so much more difficult to use. I mean, yeah, sure, if the problem is that your villain is angsty and needs to be cheered up, yeah, good one, you've saved the day. But if this is some evil miraculous holder, or a senti monster that's completely mindless, it can't really do all that much. Honestly, I can't imagine anybody ever thinking, oh yeah, I wish the pig hero was here to save me, after you've seen literally any of the other powers. Weak weapon, weak power, weak hero, see you later, mate. And moving on through the trash tier, we come to one of the more recent additions to the lineup, the dog. And honestly, I would argue this one could probably go into equal last place with the pig, because it just sucks. It truly just is trash. It's almost like this power was created specifically for that one-time use in the football special. Anyway, the weapon is a ball. And not a big hefty dodgeball type thing, a tiny little bouncy ball. Those villains are going to be shaking in their boots, I tell you that. And the power? Why, if you hit something with the ball, you can summon that thing to you. How not useful at all. I mean, maybe you can summon away somebody's weapon, or the akumatized object, or the senti monster controller. That would be useful, but you'd have to pinpoint aim that thing. The only reason Sabrina even hits the football in that episode is because everyone's just standing there waiting around. Otherwise, you'd have to be a crazy good shot, because in a fight, people are going to be moving around. And if you miss, the ball is what? Probably lost unless you recall it and get some random item that it hit after you missed your throw. Oh look, an empty soda can from that alleyway the ball fell into. This will help me defeat you, villain. And then after that, you're going to need a de-transform and your item's useless. Ugh. And in a team scenario, it's even worse. You might accidentally hit a teammate and stuff up your own plan or theirs. Bad weapon, bad power, bad hero. But really, those are the only trash tier. Then we have the ones that are okay, but not all that great at the end of the day. And I'd say the first one of these is the eagle. So the eagle, it's really not all that good. I mean, the aesthetic's pretty awesome, but this is no fashion contest. For starters, the weapon, the bull roarer, it just seems like a worse version of the yo-yo or the spinning top. So yeah, no dice there. And the power kind of sucks too. Liberation frees somebody from mental or emotional restrictions that hold them back. So basically this means the power is useless if you're on your own. Because surely you wouldn't be so stupid as to power up your enemy by removing their mental blocks, would you? So basically, you're now handicapped, because you have no power if you're on your own. Just your weapon and your enhancements. And I mean, the only thing that keeps this out of entering the trash tier is because it would be very useful in the team scenario. But that just isn't enough to bring it higher. And this brings us to the snake. And you might be thinking, wait, what? The snake's great, you idiot! Well, yeah, it is. In theory. After all, the power to go back in time 5 minutes to fix your mistakes and change your plan does make a lot of sense and seems powerful, yeah? But the problem with it is that you have to set it up. You can't just decide to go back and instantly do it. You need to set up the time frame. And from then on, you only have that 5 minutes to use it, otherwise it times out and you detransform. And that really lowers its utility because now, unlike anybody else, you have a time limit before you even get to properly use the power. Plus, a liar? Pfft, that'll show them what's what. And even in a team scenario, this power isn't that good. Because if it's in the middle of a fight, then you need to try to explain to your team what to do differently. It just feels too complex and convoluted and really, really niche. It's not bad, but I wouldn't say it's good either. And next up, we have the decent Miraculouses. And I think I'm going to start off with the goat. And at first I thought, oh wow, the goat. Seems like a knockoff Ladybug to me. And it kind of is. You can create any item you can imagine. And you have a pretty big paintbrush to whack people with to boot. Honestly, that's not that bad. But you are limited in what you can make. Because despite it apparently being capable of making anything, you apparently can't make things actually magical. Like his useless wand in Penalteam. And whilst you could probably make things like a grenade or a gun, I don't think you could actually get away with being a hero in that scenario. So instead, you're kind of handicapped and you have to try and think what would be the most useful tool to fight this villain and hope that you made the right choice instead of the smooth-brained choice. And unlike the Lucky Charm, which seems to custom make something useful and then lets you figure out how to use it, you need to do both those things for the goat, which damages its usefulness completely. Because most people, realistically, cannot think of some of the obscure shit that the Lucky Charm spews out. So yeah, this is the Ladybug, if the Ladybug wasn't as good. And then, this brings us to the turtle. And look, the turtle. I used to really rate the turtle if I'm being real. The Captain America shield is a classic weapon that bumps him up a few ranks. And his power is good, but realistically only as a team move. A way to shield your allies to help them out, or yourself until they can come and save you. But when you're all alone, you really are shit out of luck, like we saw with Fu in the Season 3 finale. You just get trapped there while the villain waits for you to tire out and beat you up. I mean, it's by no means bad, it just isn't as good as some of the other Miraculouses that we still have left over. Which brings us to the next one, the mouse. And for starters, a jump rope. Seems stupid, but it works like a whip, I guess? And as weapons go, there are definitely worse things to use. But where this one shines would be in its power. In that you can create an almost endless horde of little clone mini-me's to serve as your own personal army to swarm over your enemies. Yeah, it might not be the strongest move, and your little army would probably get clapped by some of the stronger enemies you might have to face off with, but I still think it would be a pretty useful and powerful Miraculous to hold. And now we'll go Ox. And first up, Massive Hammer is the weapon. Now we're talking. Good luck, villain. Oh, and did I mention that the superpower, Resistance, basically makes you immune to every other power? A lot of villains in the show only manage to get one over on the heroes because Shadow Moth gives them some weird-ass power that is absurdly hard to counter or avoid. But no need when you're the Ox, you can just brush that off, no problem. The only problem with this is that the enemy can probably just run away from you until your power runs out. And you don't have the same mobility as some of the other heroes that have yo-yos or extender poles or spin tops. So I would argue that you'd probably be a little bit slower with this, and thus, whilst it is OP and tanks a lot of moves, it would also be held back from the upper echelon. With a team though, oh boy, this would be strong. And this brings us to the monkey. And I will admit I was overly harsh on the monkey in my original video of this. I said it was trash. But it is not trash. It is good. It is essentially the opposite of the ox. But instead of being able to survive everybody else's powers, your attacks mess with them instead and make their power unstable or unusable. And then you have a massive stick to beat them to death with. Never underestimate the power of a massive stick. And what puts it ahead of the ox for me is that most likely somebody is going to notice if you're not getting impacted by their powers and are bulldozing close to them with a giant hammer. But they're less likely to notice that you have altered their powers slightly in the middle of a battle and now it won't work properly. Or at least, I think so. Plus, it's even better in a team situation. So essentially, it's just good at everything and is good for every situation. Which brings us to the horse. Now, the horse. In the actual show itself, I feel like it never really gets to show off how OP this could really be. For one, a giant throwable boomerang horseshoe? Ouch! Have you ever been hit in the head with a horseshoe? It hurts. Trust me. And this is a giant one. So yeah, that's going to pack a wallop. But then on top of that, you have a portal you can use. So realistically, you can do all sorts of dangerous things to people. Dump them in the desert to dehydrate. Dump them in the Arctic to freeze. Dump them in space. The bottom of the Mariana Trench. So many possibilities. And let's just assume that their superpowers here prevent them from dying. But at minimum, this gives you time to figure out something else, to detransform, and to rest. Or you can just sneak attack them with another portal on top of that. Really, the possibilities for this are endless. Is it some super game changer? No. But it is pretty strong regardless. And then we come to the tiger. And I mean, we'll start with the power. A super punch. It's pretty generic, but it's one of the closest things you're going to see to a one-hit KO in this show. Plus, on top of that, you have the bolus, which look pretty gnarly if you ask me. So yeah, pretty much the perfect power set. So in case you haven't noticed, this is where we have entered the upper tier. The great powers. So yeah, the tiger. A falcon punch and a wicked weapon. What's not to love? But there is better. Which brings us to the bee. Spinning top, which is basically the yo-yo but yellow, is a really good weapon. It can tie you up, whip you, trip you. You can swing from it, deflect stuff. Just an awesome weapon. But then on top of that, you can paralyze your target with your power. So that is essentially a one-hit KO as well, except way less destructive. And on top of that, it does have a better weapon. Nuff said. And you have to go dragon next. Sword? Yes. 3 powers? Oh yes. Doesn't turn off until you use all 3 powers, at least according to the wiki. Oh, hell yes. I mean, this is just such a good power. Wind dragon, basically a living hurricane. Water dragon, have you ever been hit by a high pressure hose? It hurts. I imagine this is much the same. And the lightning dragon, I mean, I know the show only uses it for fast travel, but you could go full Pikachu and short circuit the villain's brain out his ears with this. Very strong. And next, I would go fox. And admittedly, the flute is a pretty lame weapon for this high up on the list, but illusion is a broken power. Whether it's in the MCU, Miraculous, DC, heroes that use illusions always whoop the asses of villains who are far stronger than them initially. Never underestimate the power of mind games. I mean, it's only held back by the weapon being a piddly little flute. If they wanted a cool musical instrument weapon, she should carry around a saxophone. I've never been hit with one, but I imagine it hurts. Plus, they look cool, and sound even cooler. And the next one, it may be controversial, but it is the cat. And hear me out before you rage. The staff is nothing special. It's really good, but it's not a game changer, and Cataclysm is very strong, but not quite on the level of all these ridiculously broken powers that are higher on the list. And I know the lore says this is one of the 2 most powerful, but based on what I've seen in the show, I call BS. Yes, disintegration is a great weapon, and it is a one-hit KO essentially, or at least most of the time, but some of these other things, when you think about them, are freaking ridiculous. I mean, let's look at the peacock, because being able to custom make a Sentimonster that is perfectly tailored to your situation would be helpful as hell. But the thing is, the fan sucks, and your control over the Sentimonster can be stolen away, so that does suck a bit, but I mean, it's still super strong. You can just give this thing any power you want, can't you? So it's better than the cat, but not as good as the butterfly, which lets you make a partner hero with abilities you need for the specific situation. And you have a massive cane to whack people with. What's not to love? And I mean, for the butterfly and for the peacock, Surely you can give them powers of any of the other Miraculouses too. So that would be freaking awesome. Although, on the other hand, do you need access to feathers and butterflies, or can you do it by touch? I love a good frolic with the butterflies as much as the next man, but it would be definitely annoying to have to run back to the butterfly farm mid-battle. Which brings us to the bunny! Yay! Well, time travel. It's always OP in these sort of scenarios, isn't it? Especially since this version takes you to a safe little burrow to see every possible event, past, present, or future. I mean, if you can't win a battle against a villain with this, simply put, you're doing life wrong. Plus a fancy umbrella to whack people with like your Princess Peach. That's what I'm talking about. And then we'll go Ladybug, simply because it is so OP. I mean, it's quite clear from the events of the show that this one's just ridiculous at this point. Oh yeah, your power's only limited by your imagination. Plus, Lucky Charm is ridiculously broken, always making the exact right thing no matter what. Although it is held back by the requirement of high intelligence to be able to utilize some of the ridiculous things it spits out at you. I mean, just based on the feats that Ladybug has achieved in show, this one's pretty much next level. I used to not rate it that highly, but I feel like denying it at this point is just putting my head in the sand. But that being said, it is not the best one. Because next up is the Prodigious. And yeah, I get it, not a Miraculous, but who cares? Tough. Multiple animal forms. Each of them useful, no time limits. Shift forms at will. Dragon form has crazy elemental powers. You can basically bulldoze any villain anytime with this thing. And yet, it is still not the strongest. The Rooster is. And I mean, the Quill as a weapon is legit trash, but who cares? Because you can pick your power. So basically, you can pick anything else on this list. Or something stupid like, all villains will surrender to me as soon as they see me. This one should never have been created. Asterisk, what were you thinking? It's too broken. It's busted. It's ridiculous. If there is a Miraculous that powerful in the box, surely Marinette would use it more often. Unify that thing with the Ladybug immediately, Marinette. You wouldn't even need allies at that point. Jesus. They really should never have made this power. Anyway though, that is the end of the updated list. And I'm sure there's a storm in the comments as we speak, so I will remind you. Those were my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. Think my list is spot on? Or is it legit trash? What would your list be? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. And be nice to each other in the comments, please.